Hey everybody, welcome to South Olympic Branch Update number 99. Thanks in part to Burr Stewart and Todd Van Stupp, a group of us got the opportunity to tour Ash Grove Cement in Seattle. They offer tours on Thursday afternoons from 1 to 2, and we got to go up on this tower and get a look around and see what the actual production of cement looks like. It was pretty cool. I'll tell you this, it was pretty darn cold up there on the tower, but from there you can see this front end loader that's set up to start pushing around the limestone that comes in on a barge from British Columbia. I'm told that the material gets pushed into a conveyor, and then the conveyor is not in the center of this video, but basically it goes over to the right and then is dumped in kind of a field area, which is right there. There's another loader over there. And wouldn't you know it, there's a Union Pacific garbage train coming into town. At least I think they're coming into town, because it looks like they're going north and probably doubling the yard, because those trains are usually too long for just one track. We'll stop and watch that for a minute.
Say hi, Dave.
Apparently, the only material this plant receives by rail is slag, and that comes from a steel plant that's up in British Columbia, kind of north of Spokane. I gotta say, I was fascinated by watching that huge steel kiln slowly spin. It's like something out of a sci-fi movie. They mentioned that they burn something like 1 million tires a year as part of the fuel for this plant. But what I didn't expect was to see a bunch of tires sitting on top of a tarp on the roof of one of the buildings. As I pan to the south here, you'll get a panoramic view of Union Pacific's EvergE yard. And usually you'll see a BNSF train kind of meanders through there as well. It's not actually part of the yard, but they come through on tracks that are right next to it, I think. There's another shot of those slag hoppers. I guess I'd like to see what the loading operation for that looks like. I don't think I would have ever seen this without being up that high, but that's an open air freight transload dock there. And of course I had to get more video of that kiln slowly spinning. For the tour, we were all required to wear PPE, and I can totally see why. But it's totally worth it, even though you could barely recognize your friends standing around there in all that gear. The plant also uses this robot for its eyes and ears. There's a number of sensors, audio, video, temperature, things like that that are built into that thing. And I asked the guy if it could climb stairs, and he said that it could, and then he proceeded to demonstrate.
Look at him go.
These drums are taking the clinker and pulverizing it into cement powder. It's pretty loud, so I think that's what they said. But anyway, hopefully they'll still be offering tours in 2027 when the NMRA convention is in Tacoma, and we can have some folks see this outfit in person. It's pretty neat. We also got to visit Todd von Stupp's N-scale Montana Rail Link layout. Looks like it's going to be 3 decks, and it's set in 1998. It's the 14th and 15th divisions of the MRL, and it's called the Columbia and Palouse. Todd tells me that the 14th and 15th divisions cover eastern Washington and northern Idaho for the Montana Rail Link, and that sounds like a pretty cool area to model.
Little bits of it. Yeah, and then so it'll be ABS here, but it's gonna be real basic, like 1920s ABS, not like
Sorry, Magnus.
permissive signal. It's gonna be ABS, so everything's gonna be track one control.
Nice. I look forward to it. This is gonna be fun to operate.
Thanks.
As a dispatcher as well. So.
Cool.
Is this as easy?
Back at home, I'm working on the chemical storage building, and I found that the roof pitch was pretty shallow on the prototype, and that Rix parts are 5 degrees, so I went ahead and went with that. The doors on the building I'm attempting to model come closer to being flush with the exterior siding, so I was using some 020 styrene to try to make that happen. I've used the side of the building here to figure out exactly how long I want the last piece to be. Now, there tends to be some deflection on, I don't know, maybe that's not the right word, maybe just, it tends to get cut at weird angles sometimes. So even though I think I got this piece square, it may not be that way. So I'm going to double check it here by basically line these two up, and it looks good. I'm going to take my ruler, put it there. Let's see how it looks. That's looking pretty good. There's no big gap there, which is good. Okay, then I'm going to cut the length on this and put it together. I like to line up the two pieces and tape them together so that when I glue it, this son of a gun ain't going anywhere. Again, with the ruler. Ugh, come on. All right. That looks good. Actually, no, it's not perfect. So, that's got a little fuzz on it. A little swipe with the old fingernail file. That's better. All right. Got some of the parts for a long side here taped together to the frame that I built out of the foam core, and that'll get me an idea of what I need to do as I put 020 styrene backing on here. I was just going to go straight down to the foam core, but after looking at the way the building appears, I think I want to do a little bit more. So I'm going with 020 underneath that. So I'm out of the 020 by 060, so I'm going to have to get some more of that. It's snowing out here, or has been snowing throughout the day. So I don't know if I'll get out of the house tomorrow. So this project may get put on hold until I can get somewhere to pick up some stuff. In the meantime, I started to cut the stuff for the back wall, and as I did so, I got enthusiastic and went forward with it and realized I screwed up. I've got it hanging way over the side here. But I can fix that. I can cut this piece off, and then I can add some over here, because it looks like a corner piece that, like an 040 by 60 would probably be able to fill in. And since it's the back corner, it's going to be hard for people to see. Anyway, I don't know what this back end even looks like, but I decided to put a pair of these doors on there because I can see that on the layout. And I thought it would be cool to have a couple of man doors on the back side. So I just went ahead and added those. And if I was doing this whole thing over again, I actually would have laid out the more visible side like this as well. I sort of did, but I got better at this by doing this, a little bit of practice anyway. And so this door, actually, it's hard to tell in the video, but it actually lays in there pretty well. And then I think what I'm going to do is go over the top of this with maybe a stack of 020 once I get the seam, the 020 by 060 in there. And that way these doors will look more like the real building does, because on the real building, as you might have seen in the last video, the real building, the doors are really pretty flush with the foundation. So anyway, I think it's going to be cool one way or the other. I was able to pick up some more 020 by 060 styrene today. And let's get that part out of there. And then put that railing right on there. It still looks a little sloppy going around, and of course, going across the back side. But I think once I start to glue it together, it'll actually come together. I went ahead and laid the roof up there after I glued the corners. Now I gotta do something with that piece right there. And of course, once the roof is glued on, I think it'll look quite good. I haven't finished the other end of it yet, so when I get that done, I'll go ahead and glue that on too. and we should have a pretty decent looking storage building, except for, of course, then I've got to paint it, and I think I'll come back with another layer of styrene on the bottom here, fill that out, and I'll have that styrene painted the color of cement. Well, the corner's not perfect. It kind of goofed there. So I'm just adding a little 20 by 60 piece of styrene glued into place. I'll just wait for that to set, and then I'll chop it off. Now I've nipped it off with my sprue cutters, and that looks better. It's still not perfect. It's time to work on the foundation. And I decided to do this a little bit different than what I was initially planning, which was to use tissue paper and stick it to it. But I cut some pieces of styrene out, and I've carved some notches in them to give it kind of a form seam look in some places, as the real building has. And then I actually cut these all out so they fit on certain sections. So I've numbered the sides of the building. And I kind of wish I hadn't glued these doors into place, but I felt like I had to at the time. Not sure why. I also added a little piece of styrene up here that's an angle piece, and that will be a place that will kind of help lock in the covered. There's a covered walkway that goes from one of the other buildings to this one, and I'm going to have to build that yet, but I wanted to have something for it to kind of notch into, and so that's done. Anyway, stand back. I realize my video is all blurry. It kind of sucks, but anyway, so I'm thinking I'm going to use some Vallejo barley gray on this. And I've taped all this down, and the numbers are on the back side of those things. And then I'm going to airbrush this. And then I think for the doors that are already on there, I'm going to need to mask those when I put a coat of like refrigerator white on the metal, just to make it look more realistic, because it's shiny styrene right now, and that doesn't look all that good, even though it's kind of the right color. Okay, parts are painted, and you can see the little seam lines I've carved out there kind of stand out a little bit more. And then that door's just kind of sitting in there. It's not glued into place. Oh shoot, I forgot to paint the steps for the building. I knew there was something. Well, I already cleaned the airbrush, so maybe I'll do those by hand. Poot. Just finished airbrushing, doing a primer, ivory primer on this building. Probably can't even tell the difference in the video. But in person, there's definitely a visible difference. So I think my next step is going to be to paint the doors that are on the building, and which I was thinking I was going to do those by hand. And then since I glued them in place before I actually had the rest of the building painted, and then install the cement foundation pieces that I made earlier. Just finished airbrushing, doing a primer, ivory primer on this building. Probably can't even tell the difference in the video. But in person, there's definitely a visible difference. So I think my next step is going to be to paint the doors that are on the building, and which I was thinking I was going to do those by hand. And then since I glued them in place before I actually had the rest of the building painted, and then install the cement foundation pieces that I made earlier. So I painted some barley gray on the doors and then kind of dabbed it off with a Kleenex. I thought, well, actually, it's not a perfect effect, but I kind of like that sort of worn look a little bit. So and then I did a wash of barley on the roll-up door, and I kind of wish I'd done that on those other doors as well. So I think that looks better. Mm-hmm. Since the foundation came out a lot darker than I had actually planned, I decided to take some pan pastels and work it down there, which actually has the benefit of making it brighter. I don't know if you guys can tell that in the camera. And also has the benefit of making it look kind of chalky, which is what, cement tends to look like anyway. So, geez. See if I can do this at a angle where you guys can actually see what the heck I'm doing. You can, I don't know if you can tell the difference between the part I'm working on right there and the part on this side, which hasn't been done yet, but is about to be done. It's just a makeup sponge and white. That's what it is. Now the only downside of this is that when I do get around to having the piece that I'm missing made, I will have to remember to paint it and chalk it as well. So, you know. Yeah. So if I can find part number 1, I'm going to kick my own ass about that for a while. Anyway, but I still think the building looks pretty darn good. It's not like I have an opinion or anything. Let's take a break now and watch this intermodal train run by Stupp. This train is being pulled by 2 scale trains, SD40-2s, an A unit and a B unit. If you missed this run, don't worry too much about it. They're doing another one. This time there'll be some white-faced units with ditch lights in the mix. All right, so I wanted to put some lighting over the doors here, and I have these Atlas trackside lighting wall mount square lights. They're a little bit oversized, I think, but it'll be close enough for what I want to do. I already drilled like a number 51 hole in the side of the wall there. And this is the leftover tubing from one of the other ones. I wanted to see if that actually was the size to fit. Looks like it is. So then I went ahead and kind of installed the other one. I got to glue it in place. Probably should test it before I do that. And then I'll put the other one on. Yeah, those look pretty chunky for this building. But then the outdoor lights in the 80s were a lot bigger than what some of the buildings have on them now. Okay, I've got a basic layer of paint on these pieces, finally. And, whoops, there goes the piece. I'll be putting those in place, you know, on the building like that. And then I'll be coming back with my pan pastels and rubbing in some white and some really light gray on there to give those pieces a more realistic look. And then I've just got a couple of other things to do to make this building look the way I want it to look. Every once in a while I run one of my older locomotives like this Proto 2000 with a QSI decoder in it and no capacitor to help remind me to clean track. I mentioned before that I thought these vents needed to be a little taller. I got out my Micromark punch and made myself some little circles out of that, glued it to the top of the pins that I showed you before, and then glued the pieces on top of those. So that's all good to go. Now, the only other things I think I need to do to the roof is weather it a little bit and maybe shape it so these edges are a little smoother. They're not quite so jigsawed. And then, because as hard as I tried, it still didn't end up perfectly straight. And then at the other end, put the end trim piece on there. So that was easier than I thought. I put it upside down on the cutting mat and managed to trim that so both sides of that look a lot better. Oh yeah, I was going to weather that top too. Okay, ground down to 5 degrees and with the Ultimation sander, and then Hashtag not sponsored, as some would say. And then I've glued it with the plastic weld, and I just want to give it a few minutes to kind of solidify before I try to stick it to the roof. Well, I finished all the details I'm going to put on this building for now. I put some glass in the door. It's funny because that's a lot less visible now that I've done it. Before it was super obvious that there wasn't something there. Anyway, I also finished the roof by adding the one last little piece to the end of it, and put glass in the back door too, and lifted up the vents a little bit, glued those down, and weathered the roof with some light gray. One thing I had noticed in one of the photographs was that there were some like light brown panels. I think they're translucent along the side. So I simulated those by painting some light brown. Not really happy with the way that turned out. I think I might try simulating that kind of thing with maybe some Tamiya masking tape in the future. I think it might make a sharper edge and give it a little bit different texture that would subconsciously do something there. Anyway, I think though for the time being, I'm done with this building. Yeehaw. If you want to see a list of parts that went into that building, check out the description of the video. Hope you all have enjoyed episode number 99, and hope to see you all at the United Northwest Train Show coming up in Monroe on the 22nd and 23rd of this month, so just 10 days away already. In the meantime, stay safe and have fun with your trains out there.